Alright, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting in Group A, the hosts, the Qataris, Senegal, Ecuador, and the Netherlands. I really like Senegal. I think they have a very quality team in a lot of different areas. They're really good. They are really hurt by the injury to Sadio Mane. Obviously, their best player, one of the best forwards in the whole world. So they are really, really hurt with that. For that reason, I think Netherlands is going to be top of the group here. Originally going in when Mane was healthy, I had Senegal as a dark horse. I just don't see them doing quite as well without him. Koulibaly is still good. Mendy, of course, is still good. They have other players. Ismail Assar, of course, is in good form as well. So they will still be a challenge, and I think that they could get out the groups. I think that they will get out the groups. But Ecuador is certainly going to be a challenger for them in that regard. As long as they can find a way to stay healthy, to get Antonio Valencia rolling, I think Ecuador can move well. Moving on to Group B. Group B, our home group. Interesting group here. I think that there's a wide variance in the quality of teams. England is one of the best squads in the world here. USA are probably a top 20 country in the world. Wales probably a top 30, and Iran probably a top 50 or so. I think it's easy and tempting to just say England, USA, Wales, Iran. I think it's very tempting to just go with your gut like that. I think England will top the group pretty much unquestionably. They're really good. They should be topping this group. They should be getting 9 points from their matches in this group. But they're England, so we'll see. USA is next. I don't personally like Berhalter. You guys know this. We've been all over this before. Not a big fan of Greg Berhalter, but there's a lot of quality in this squad, and I just think there's too much quality for Wales and Iran. I think the minute that you start underestimating Iran is the minute that they get you. They've got Taremi, who's in fantastic form for Porto, been scoring a lot in the Champions League. He's a good player. And he's going to be kind of the focal point, the star focus of this squad. They sit deep in a low block, and then they look to nick goals where they can. It's going to be difficult to play against for teams like USA, England, and Wales. The minute you underestimate Iran is the minute they bite you in the butt. But that being said, I still think Wales has too much quality at the top with Gareth Bale. They've got Dan James is not as bad as a lot of people want to say he is. Aaron Ramsey's past it, but he's still a good player. Ben Davies, there's just good players in and around this Wales squad. Moving on to Group C, you've got a couple of really good teams here. Obviously, Argentina will top the group. They're very, very good. They haven't lost in 3 years now. 35 straight matches in a row that they've gone undefeated. Their quality, and Messi is arguably the best player in the world right now for several different reasons. But he's going to be doing a lot more creation, a lot more chance creation for this Argentinian squad. He has Julian Alvarez and Lautaro Martinez, amongst others. Angel Di Maria is still in the setup. So there are a lot of good forwards that Messi is going to be working with, and feeding the ball to, and I think Argentina is in with a very good chance of winning the whole thing. From there, we have Poland and we have Mexico. Mexico, I think, are on a downturn, and for that reason, I'm going Poland. Lewandowski's last major tournament, most likely. He is shown to be a little bit Superman in terms of his quality over the length of his career. There are some other good forwards in this Polish setup, including Milic. You got Matty Cash in there. So there's some good players in this Polish setup, and I think they're just going to be a bit too much for Mexico, which they're not at their best. They're probably the third best team in North America right now, and that is something that has never been true really ever before in history. Not necessarily that Mexico has gotten worse, just that the others, USA and Canada, have gotten a lot better, along with Costa Rica, Honduras, and Jamaica as well. So for that reason, I'm going Argentina, Poland, Mexico, and then Saudi Arabia at the bottom of the group. Group D, interesting group here. We've got Tunisia, Denmark, France, and Australia. Australia is not to be underestimated. They're going to play hoofball, which, very unaesthetic, but it could work against some teams like Denmark or like France. Tunisia as well, not to be underestimated. I think Tunisia and Australia will, of course, be fighting it out for the third spot in this group. For me, I think this French squad is just too good. I think they get a goal differential. Somehow they're going to get the knock above Denmark, who is very, very good. Dark horses, absolutely. I would not be surprised if they're in the quarters or even semifinals of this tournament. They are extremely good. They play attacking football. They're very, very well balanced. They've got Dolberg, Braithwaite, and Yusuf Poulsen up top as a focal point of this attack, being fed balls from the likes of Christian Eriksen. They've got three really, really strong ball-playing center halves at the back and some good wide players in the likes of Joachim Mæhle. I like this Denmark squad. I think that they could go very deep, and it would not surprise me if they topped France to top Group D here. From there, I just lean Australia because of the likes of, some of their bigger forwards that they have in there. They're going to be big. They're going to be difficult to play against, and I think they might get the one-up on Tunisia in that regard. Group E, another interesting group here. You've got a lot of quality teams here. A lot of people are writing off Costa Rica, and they did that in the last tournament as well, and Costa Rica ended up topping their group, which I think was the group of death. So Costa Rica is good. Keylor Navas, of course, between the sticks, will be a solid keeper for them. Japan has a bunch of good players, especially at the back. Their defense is going to be very solid, but they play a bit more on the front foot as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they nick a few goals. This is an interesting setup because we know Spain likes to keep possession. We know Japan likes to play very attacking. Germany is typically a very attacking team. So this group should provide a lot of interesting, fun, entertaining matches to watch. I'm going Spain topping the group. I think Spain are a potential to win the whole thing. They're coached really well. They have a lot of dynamism in the team, a lot of technicality all throughout that squad. They're really, really, really solid in pretty much every area. I like Spain. I think that they could go very deep in this tournament. Next, I'm going Germany. It's hard to go against Musiala. I think Musiala could be Young Player of the Year if you can find a way to get him or Young Player of the Tournament if you can find a way to get him and Thomas Müller involved in this lineup as well. They are lacking an out-and-out striker, which is kind of weird. You think back to the days of Miroslav Klose or even Lucas Podolski for a few years as well. They're typically they have a strong out-and-out striker. However, there isn't really anyone like that right now. But there are players like Sané and Gnabry who are going to be very good for Germany. Not to mention probably the best midfield in the international setup with Goretzka and Kimmich. They're very solid. They will be very good this tournament. Hard to beat, but I just like Spain a little bit more. From there, I'm going Japan and then Costa Rica. I really like Tomiyasu. I think that Japan has a lot of interesting forwards coming out of like Scotland and Portugal. It's a really interesting hotbed for talent, at least in football right now. And I think that they'll give a good show of themselves. Maybe get a draw against Germany or against Spain. Maybe beat Costa Rica. Neither of those would surprise me. And I just think they'll pip Costa Rica to this third place spot. Group F. This group is kind of up for the grabs. Belgium are on paper the favorites, but they're old. They're very, very old, especially at the back. And that opens the door for interesting teams like Canada who have a lot of pace, and with the likes of Jonathan David, with the likes of Alphonso Davies, who play hard, quick, transitional games. that could be very, very dangerous for Belgium's older, aging defenders. Morocco as well. They've got a lot of quality out wide in the likes of Akraf Hakimi. And Mazraoui plays on the left in this setup. So their fullbacks are very solid. They'll be able to go toe-to-toe with probably any of the wide players here. I know Perisic at Croatia is a good player. But I really like these Moroccan fullbacks. I think that they'll play very well. This group is completely up for grabs. I think Morocco, Canada, Belgium, Croatia. It could be any order. It really could be any of these four. For me, I'm going Belgium, Croatia, Morocco, and Canada at the bottom. They lost a few interesting players, Canada, a few quality players for them in their starting 11 prior to this tournament. So I think that will hurt them. The tournament for Canada, of course, is the next tournament when it is hosted among the three countries, Canada, USA, and Mexico. That's the one where Canada will be looking to really impress. I think that they have a shot to go through the group stages here. I don't think that it is likely in the cards for them. I think Morocco are more likely to pip Belgium or Croatia out of these advancing spots here. Moving on to Group G. Some really quality teams in here. Brazil, of course, another favorite to win the tournament. They are so good. They are so good in every single position. From Neymar to Fred to Martinelli. This Brazil squad is stacked with depth. I mean, players like Gabriel, who's been one of the best center halves in English football this year, isn't making this squad. And, you know, you can have your arguments over whether or not it deserves to be that way, whether or not he deserves to be in this squad. I think there's an argument for both. He's not in it, and that goes to show how good this Brazil team truly is. They're, one of the favorites for the tournament. A lot of people are picking them to win the whole thing. They're very, very good. It's been a long time since this Brazil team has been this good. Switzerland, not to be underrated as well, had another good show in the Euros, led by Granit Xhaka, of course, who's in the form of his life. Breel Embolo playing well for Monaco as well. So Switzerland is an interesting team. They'll be getting goals. They'll be solid defensively, which is what you need in international tournaments, where you don't have the time to organize your tactics and your structure as fluidly as you do in club football. Switzerland will be good. Serbia, of course, will be an interesting team. They've got three really good center forwards, so the struggle for them will be getting these three players on the pitch. Mitrovic, Vlahovic, and Tadic. So it will be interesting to see how they get those three players on the pitch at the same time, playing in front of Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. Could be a very good team. This Cameroon team, I don't know too much about them. I think they're a bit unfortunate to be in a really quality group. There's a lot. It's hard to pick a group of death this year because there's just a lot of talent all across the groups this year. I mean, it's hard to say that Group E is not a group of death. Group F could go anybody's way. Group D has two really quality European teams. So it could be... it's hard to say who the group of death is, especially Group G has three really solid teams. Group H has four really solid teams. I think Korea is hampered by the lack of Heung-min Son, of course. For me, I'm going Switzerland, Serbia, Cameroon, bringing up this fourth spot. Here, I just think that the talent across the board in Switzerland, they're a cohesive program. They've got a lot of quality players in important areas that work really, really, really well together. And I think for that, they're just going to beat the Serbia side, whose best players are largely concentrated in one position, one area of the pitch. Group H, my pick for the group of death. I think they're really solid. If Heung-min Son was healthy, this would certainly be the group of death. I do feel really bad for Korea. I just don't think that with the absence of their best player, they're going to be able to get anything done here. They're going up against some quality opposition. We know Portugal is a fantastic squad. Ronaldo, of course, There's a lot of controversy surrounding him, whether there are issues between Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo is yet to be seen, but we know that there's a lot of quality there. The likes of Nuno Mensch playing back to his best in the French capital, so they should be a really interesting team. A lot of people do not like Santos, the manager, and kind of deservedly so. I don't think he knows what his best 11 is. I don't think he knows what style he wants to play, and for that, I'm worried. In tandem with Cristiano Ronaldo's recent escapades, I'm worried about Portugal advancing out of this group, because Uruguay is just really, really good. I think they're a bit of a dark horse. I know they're a bit old up top with the likes of Cavani and Suarez, but they will still be really solid. They've got a midfield that can go toe-to-toe with anybody, with the likes of Fede Valverde and Rodrigo Bentancur. They are going to be solid. Ronald Araujo, the center back for Barcelona, struggles to get into this side, so that goes to show just how deep this squad is and how the different qualities that they have in different areas. I think they will be a very, very good team. Could possibly go to the quarters or maybe even further. They're very solid. After that, I'm going Ghana. Thomas Partey, of course, is the important player for Ghana, but there are other interesting additions as well. You have the Ayew brothers, of course, who have international experience, World Cup experience prior to this. They are the only players in this Ghana squad with previous World Cup experience. You also have the likes of Tariq Lamptey, who I think is a really interesting late addition to this Ghana squad because he was able to get that paperwork on time his visa, to be able to play for them. And I just think that they're a dark horse in this tournament. It wouldn't surprise me if they top this group. It wouldn't surprise me if they continue to advance past the quarterfinals. So, from there, Portugal, and then Korea falling to the wayside here. Netherlands and USA. This should be a good game. Two attacking teams. Netherlands, I think, just have more quality. Again, I don't like the U.S. men's setup. I don't like the tactics that Berhalter is going to use. He's going for this 4-3-3. I don't think that we have the center backs to play this 4-3-3. This isn't our tournament. We're looking for the next tournament. This should have been the tournament where we blood a bunch of young players, get them alongside some experienced heads like Tim Ream, whose exclusion from this squad was criminal for the last year. There are some other major exclusions as well, with the likes of James Sands, Jordan Pefok. There's a tough selection of strikers that he's gone with. I just don't think that the USA has the quality to beat Netherlands in a head-to-head match. But maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe Aronson plays better than I think he is. Maybe Pulisic plays better than he has been. He's pretty much always looked good in a U.S. shirt. Gio Reyna has yet to get going in a U.S. shirt, or in a Dortmund shirt for that matter. He needs to stay healthy. He needs to stay on the pitch in order to be at his best. But I think Netherlands takes this. Argentina-Denmark. This is a spicy matchup right here. It could just as easily be Argentina-France. This is a really, really spicy matchup right here. Man, this will be good. Whew. I really want to say Denmark. I said earlier they're dark horses. I mean, it's hard to call them dark horses because of how well they performed at the Euros. That semifinal appearance. I really want to call Denmark here. I do like that midfield of Delaney, Højbjerg, Eriksen. They've also got Christian Norgard coming in off the bench, who I think is a phenomenal player. The fact he's on the bench is pretty insane, to be honest, but Delaney is the weak man in that lineup, and it's hard to take him out with how he's played for Denmark. I gotta go Argentina. They're just so good in every single area, and Messi, I just think they're gonna make it hard to play against, to play through, which Denmark looks to play through teams. They play attacking football, and I don't think Argentina is going to be the sort of team that's just easy. They don't roll over. They're not going to be the sort of team that's just easy to play through. Spain and Croatia. I like Spain for this tournament. I really do. I like what they're doing there. I like this possession-based game. I think it fits the squad. Pedri, of course, is fantastic. I think they have the midfield to go with Croatia between Pedri and Gavi and Busquets. I think that they have the midfield to go toe-to-toe with this Croatian midfield, and they've got a lot of other quality in important areas. Morata has always looked good in a Spanish shirt. So I think Spain has what it takes to beat Croatia here. Brazil and Ghana. Ghana's a good team. They are not to be underestimated. There's a lot of these dark horses: Ghana, Senegal, Denmark, Croatia. When you start USA, when you start underestimating these guys, Switzerland, when you underestimate them, that's when you get into trouble, because they are very solid. They will find ways to beat you. So I think that this Brazil team and Tite need to prepare well for this Ghana matchup. But there's just so much quality in that Brazil team. I mean, they're solid front to back. I mean, their keeper position, they have two of the best keepers in the game. So that just goes to show just how deep this squad is in every single area, with the exception of fullbacks. Jordi Alba, Danilo, Dani Alves are still involved in this setup. They're all over 30. Some of them are bordering 40. Danilo has been very good for probably 2 years for Juventus now, so I don't mean to harp on him too much. I do worry about this Brazil fullback situation, but with the experience that they have, they're all serial winners. Dani Alves is the most decorated player in FIFA history, so it's hard to go against them just because they're old, you know? England and Senegal. England should be winning this game handedly. Handedly, especially with no Sadio Mane. England should be winning this game handedly. I think it's going to be like a 2-1, 1-0, something like that. I don't like the way that Southgate sets up this team. I worry about that for this English squad. And I think that the minute that they come up against one of the big boys, Brazil, France, Spain, Argentina, I think the minute that they come up against one of those favorites for the tournament, I really worry. I really, really do worry once they're up against the big boys. Yeah, France is going to beat this Polish side. I know Poland has some really good players, but France has the center backs to deal with their forward lineup. I mean, it's a question mark whether or not William Saliba gets into this French setup. So I think that goes to show just how good they are at the back defensively. They didn't bring, I think Pavard is their only right back. It's a very clear and cut how they're going to play, who they're going to play in that role. There's some interesting players who are on the peripherals of this French setup who didn't get in, like Klaus, was probably their best fullback last year. Didn't get in, but I still think that they beat this Poland side. Belgium and Germany. Wow. Okay, so these are two teams who I kind of expect to both underperform a little bit. I think Belgium will not be as good as they have been in the past in international setups. Same with Germany. I just think that they're missing some star power in that forward setup. I think that they're a bit unbalanced outside of the midfield. I really like this midfield. And of course, Manuel Neuer is top drawer keeper, has been for 20 years now. Does he have the legs to keep it up? We'll find out. I think that he will. When you start betting against Manuel Neuer, that's when you start losing. And so I think that this German side, they're just going to have too much quality, too much pace in their inside forwards of Sané, of Gnabry for this Belgian back line. That is just, they're past it. They don't have it anymore. Uruguay and Switzerland. Two dark horses here, or it's hard to call them dark horses because we're kind of starting to realize just how good they are, but two really solid teams right here. Man, it's difficult to pick. I think I go Uruguay just because this midfield setup is really, really good. Fede Valverde and Rodrigo Bentancur are absolutely fantastic, and I think they're going to give Granit Xhaka and whoever is playing alongside him in this Swiss setup a real run for their money. They're very solid, and we know Uruguay loves to perform on the World Cup at the biggest stage of football. So they're going to be really, really solid, I think. Moving back up to Netherlands and Argentina. Yeah, it's pretty. I'm going hard for some of the favorites in this bracket, of course. Argentina is solid. I think they have what it takes to beat Netherlands. Some of the Dutch players are not in their best form. Virgil van Dijk, namely. I think they're going to struggle with what to do with Messi. They do have some interesting players coming up in the midfield like Darun, Koopmeiners. They've got some good players coming up in that midfield, in this deeper midfield, like playing in that double pivot, who I think might be solid to go toe-to-toe with the Argentinians. But there's just so much quality in this Argentina squad. I don't think that the Dutch have a keeper, have a world-class goalkeeper. Argentina doesn't have a world-class goalkeeper, but Emiliano Martinez is a very good player, much better than Bijlau, who I think is good, but just doesn't have what it takes. And there are some other interesting areas. I worry about the forward situation with the Netherlands. I know Depay is an important player, and he's playing well for them, less so for Barcelona. So I just worry about the Dutch getting enough goals to beat an Argentina team that's you're probably going to need 3 goals at least to beat them and be very solid defensively. Spain and Brazil, what a mouth-watering matchup this is. We know how Spain likes to play. 70% possession, I think, through the Nations League that they averaged, which is they're going to try and keep the ball. And against this Brazil team, that's what you want. You want to keep Brazil off of the ball. And they're not set up for a big high press. Sometimes Neymar even drops into the midfield for this Brazil team in order to get an extra forward. They don't have Bobby Firmino, who is a big presser. Of course, has a lot of work rate off of the ball. They do have some other players who work very hard, including Richarlison, including Gabriel Jesus, including Gabriel Martinelli, who work very, very, very hard off the ball. Who could counter-press against this Spanish possession-based side. This is a really enticing matchup, and if it does end up happening, this might end up being one of the games of the tournament. But for me, I have to go Brazil. I think this star quality is too good. And look at this potential matchup for the semifinals. I have a feeling this is how it's going to be, and I am so excited for this. My mom's birthday, by the way, is December 14th, so if this game does end up happening, it'll be a big day. England and France. Speaking of big games and teams that hate each other, this French side is really good. They lost Benzema, of course, to injury, so he's not going to be involved in this setup. However, that's one of the deepest positions that this French squad has, with the likes of Kylian Mbappe, Antoine Griezmann, and Olivier Giroud, of course, who was one of their better players when they won the World Cup 4 years ago. Does a lot of the things that Benzema would be asked to do for this French squad. This English team is just so good. You have world-class players all over the pitch. You're missing some important players like Reece James. I think that's a big loss for England. Calvin Phillips, big loss for England. But this midfield is still good. This midfield can still go toe-to-toe with anybody France puts out, with the likes of Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher involved in that setup. Jordan Henderson as well provides a lot of leadership. I'm not liking the possibility of Harry Maguire versus Kylian Mbappe. I think that is a recipe for disaster. I just think that there is a lot of question marks up in the air with this French squad. We saw how they imploded in the Euros. I think Mbappe's ego has only gotten bigger. I do worry about them and the way that they gel as a squad, and how that is going to affect their on-pitch performance. And for that, England goes. Germany and Uruguay. I think Germany are lucky that I've picked them to go this far because of certain matchups. I just don't think they have the legs to go with the likes of England, France, Brazil, Spain, Argentina. I don't think Germany has what it takes to go toe-to-toe with these other big boys right now, especially missing, like I said earlier, this striker, which is an important position for them. They do have Antonio Rudiger, who's a very good player at the back, will be very, very solid for them. In their fullbacks, they've got a couple of options. A lot of players who are playing for smaller teams in the Bundesliga. They don't really have a lockdown on this right back position. So it could be problematic for them, and for that reason, I'm going Uruguay. I think Uruguay has the personnel in the midfield to go. They have midfielders who can go with anybody in the world, between Bentancur and Fede Valverde, and I think that they can give Kimmich and Goretzka a game and get the win over this German side. This has to be the game of the tournament, doesn't it? I mean, this is just such an enticing matchup on paper. It's just so good all around. Man, it's hard to pick between these two. I'm going Argentina. Messi. Messi is the reason why. I think he is playing. He's brought a new element to his game. We always knew that he had this creator side to it, but now that he has the goal scoring responsibility is no longer on him. He's got Lautaro Martinez, he's got Julian Alvarez, he has Angel Di Maria, he has other players who are going to score goals in this Argentina setup. So I don't think he has to worry about that anymore, and that brings out the best of him, which is his ability as a creator, as a false nine, to drop deep, to link play, and to pick passes, to feed other players. I think Messi is just going to be so good in this tournament. He's in really good form. He's possibly the best player in the world right now, not named Erling Haaland. So he's really good, and I think this Argentina side, I just think that they have the cohesion and dedication and momentum to beat their bitter rivals, Brazil, like they did earlier. England, Uruguay. Again, England has the squad. They have the players. They have the talent in every position to go toe-to-toe with anybody in the world. They really should be favorites. Or a favorite, I should say, along with France, Brazil, and Argentina. They really should be a favorite to win this tournament. And I think that they think of themselves that they are. A lot of people criticize Gareth Southgate, saying England will never win a World Cup or a major trophy under Southgate. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they can win the World Cup under Southgate. I think that there are other managers out there who are better, who give them better odds to win, who are available, who give them better odds to win this setup. I think if they had sacked Southgate after Hungary and then brought in Pochettino to kind of bed in his ideas, that really could have set them up well. I think that Uruguay has the midfield to compete with England, and the tactics and overall quality as well to go with them. I think they're going to pit them tactically. I think that they're going to pit them in the way that they know how they want to play, and that they play a little bit more on the front foot. I just think that England is going to struggle. I think that they're going to struggle against these better sides. And for that, I'm going Argentina and Uruguay advancing to the finals, where Messi wins his first World Cup. Does that cement him as the greatest player of all time if he wins the World Cup? In this World Cup, after people said he was finished last year, if he comes back and he then wins the World Cup in the very next year, does that cement him as the greatest player of all time? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'm looking forward to this World Cup. I'm really excited, really excited. I think there's going to be a lot of good games in here. I think there's going to be a lot of drama, as we're already seeing. And that's kind of why we watch, isn't it? So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers.